Intervals. I wanted to start with a little bit of personal experience. So when I was a kid, I was in a music school, and I remember I hated intervals. Like I didn't understand anything. But as I grew older, I understood that they're actually pretty simple and really useful for music. So if you have the same problem as I used to have when I was a kid, we can first start talking about something more interesting, which is music. We don't really need an definition of music. We all have a favorite song. So I've created this little diagram. So don't pay real attention to this. We're gonna start talking about the waves. So a wave is a disturbance that moves energy from one place to another. This can be in throughout different mediums such as air, water, and wood. So this is how a wave is in theory. We know we can see that there are ups, which are actually called crests, and there are downs, which are called troughs. So this is an example of how we will see how um, sounds are moved throughout the air. So, for example, we can see every time there's an crest, we see these little air particles compressed, and every time there's a trough, the air particles are not compressed anymore. So, there's a source that emits the sound, and so the particles are compressed, not compressed, compressed, not compressed, and that's how they make it to our ears, right? And how we hear different sounds. So sounds are a type of energy made by vibrations. The best example of this are, for example, tuning forks. We know that every time we hit a tuning fork with a surface, it makes a specific sound. And this is kind of annoying. But this specific sound, sorry, depends on the hertz. Um, so well, we know that the hertz is something per second, which and depending on the certain number of hertz we have per second, that makes a note. So, for example, in music, a C4 is not a bump; it's just a note. For example, here in the piano, or no. So this is a C4. This is actually just 261 hertz per second. And we have different examples of this, such as D4, E4. So getting into a little bit of history, we know that the first instrument made by humans was the flute. So we every time you put a finger on different holes, it makes a different note. So it produces different hertz, right? Um, so let's now move to intervals. Getting into the definition, intervals is just the distance between two notes, which is pretty easy to understand. So, for example, we have here the major scale: do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do. So in the piano, do, re, mi. So, for example, an interval of 2, an interval of 3, do, re, an interval of 4, and finally we have an interval of 5. This is a pretty common interval used in all of music because it is really pleasant. And well, that's what an interval is. We know that it's pretty simple. Then we know that then we have chords. So a chord is a group of typically 3 or more notes. We can change this note into intervals, sounded together as a basis of harmony. So, for example, the C major chord is just here. It's just two intervals of 2. So it's do and re. Sorry, do and mi and sol. So this is the C major chord, and that's how music is made. So composers choose different chords, and they write music like that. So with all this knowledge, we know that music is made of chords, different chords, which we know that a chord is actually an interval. and intervals are made of different sounds, which are really notes depending on the hertz they have. And all of this is made thanks to waves that transport, well, the sounds we hear.